everyone, and welcome to another episode of SEOs Getting Coffee. We have our coffee ready. Everybody's got their coffee? Yeah?
Nice
Excellent.
warm hot coffee here. Black coffee for me today.
Nice. No, milky one for me always.
No,
so today we are talking to Sarah Pokorná, which is a very special guest that's joining us to talk about a very interesting topic, which is psychology and SEO. So Sarah's been working in SEO for more than 12 years, and she has a degree in psychology, and she's kind of combined the two. She says it's because she wants to, make sure that she is actually using her diploma, which is great. I know how that feels. And you're currently at Dragonmetrics, aren't you?
I am, yes. Yep.
So check it out, Dragonmetrics. It's an SEO tool. It's quite a good one. So, Sarah, over to you. Tell us a bit about psychology and SEO. What do we mean when we say psychology and SEO?
Okay, so psychology and SEO, I think, is a bit misunderstood in the SEO industry. From my experience, what I've kind of got from people is SEO is SEO. Why the hell do you need psychology in SEO? So I spend quite a lot of my time reminding people that actually, SEO is a marketing channel. Marketing is all about getting people to do kind of what you want them to do. And it is also about, understanding how people think and why they do the actions that they do, and what, how to make them do certain things. So when it comes to psychology, there are different psychology principles, especially social psychology, that you can use that actually can really help your work as an SEO.
Brilliant. I mean, it's interesting what you're saying that, SEOs tend to say, oh, what does that have to do with SEO? Do you think that has to do with the fact that even though we're constantly told, write for people, write for the users, do what the user wants, some SEOs are stuck with this, doing it for the search engine. So it's kind of this kind of, oh, let's put it out there so that it ranks on Google rather than, it actually serving the user, even though Google says it's the same thing. But is it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think the industry is far too kind of obsessed. Well, that sounds really harsh, but you get what I mean. Far too obsessed with pleasing Google, pleasing the ranking factors, doing all of the stuff that they feel that they have to do for SEO, when actually what you want to do is, get the human behind it, get the human to make that conversion, get the human to resonate with your brand, rather than just getting your website on, position 1 or something and leaving it there to do whatever.
There's like a bubble as well, I think, that has kind of happened in some regards, is that I think that digital marketing in general, it kind of gets, it's because obviously it's like it was like this, the new version, new marketing with obviously technology changes and this new industry that bloomed. But I think people sometimes forget that there's also a whole history of advertising and marketing that came before it. And there's lots of research and lots of studies that happened way before in the 20th century on, marketing techniques and obviously how to market and advertise, better to people to get them to buy your products, and I think sometimes that gets lost because people are too busy, online, and you forget of more traditional marketing methods, so yeah, it's a really, really interesting subject.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of always recommend to people as well, is go back to the likes of, Mad Men or, Confessions of an Advertising Man by Ogilvy, and read how they did things in the past, because they couldn't rely on, the tools that we have today to get out in front of audience. They relied on 5 words to get their message out there and get the job done, and they had to be smart about it. So you can learn an awful lot from looking kind of at traditional advertising, using traditional marketing techniques, using psychology, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things that you talk a lot about that is very close to my heart as well is this idea of bias in psychology.
Yep.
I absolutely loved your Brighton SEO presentation. And tell us a bit about bias. What is it? Why should we care?
Yeah, so basically, everybody is biased. Even though we don't like to think that we are, we are. We do certain actions because of, the way that our brains are programmed to behave. So, for example, we don't like new experiences. We prefer things that, follow the status quo because that's human nature. When it comes to, like confirmation bias, which I talked about in my Brighton presentation, people do not like information that disconfirms their existing beliefs. So people will go out on Google and they will look for information. And even if they're completely wrong, they will find that information that confirms what they believe and then they'll feel better about themselves. So there's like hundreds of different types of cognitive biases out there that impact everybody. So understanding how they work can help you understand a lot when it comes to what people are doing on Google or how people are searching, because people are not rationally sitting there searching for information like, oh, I'm going to use this keyword and I'm going to put it into Google and I'm going to do this and I'm going to find out this information. No, they're sat there like anger typing and I am right, I want to prove that I am right, and so on. So when you start taking a look at it, it's actually quite messed up, really, how people think.
But do you find that sometimes it's so? I find that there's like this divide between people who don't use psychology at all and completely forget about the fact that you are actually doing marketing. SEO is kind of marketing as well. And then you have this other group who's nailing it, like always thinking about it, always thinking about users and stuff like that. And then there's this third group that kind of thinks that they know about psychology, like kind of a pseudoscience type of thing. Tell us what you think about that. I'm asking because I know you have some very, very strong opinions.
Oh gosh. So, are you sure you want to ask me that question?
Oh, I love that question.
Right. I fucking hate it. Like, seriously, what is with people thinking that they know psychology because they go on LinkedIn and they see a post about color psychology and think, "Oh yes, I'm gonna do this because LinkedIn said so." Like half of the pseudoscience that people talk about is actually a load of bollocks. And when it comes to as well stuff like of organizational psychology and stuff like that, again, the stuff that you get in, for example, like Harvard that they recommend and stuff has actually been disproven if you read the studies. So like people go on about, for example, emotional intelligence testing. Emotional intelligence testing actually is not a very good way of measuring if somebody's going to be a decent employee or not. Actually, CVs and reading somebody's CV is a lot more successful way of doing it, according to studies. Then you've got things that, like personality testing in the workplace, which again is a load of rubbish and discriminatory and doesn't work. And then again, it all comes back to, people who write a book because they think they know psychology when actually they don't. They've never read a paper in their lives. And I hate it. It's like my pet peeve.
No, it's a good one actually, because but what about like the advertising side of things? So, I mean, I know not much about psychology. I'm like also one of these SEOs that understands that it's about the users, and I understand the human element of it, but it's not like I've been trained in these approaches from, you have the degree. I don't have a degree in psychology. So what about the kind of, is there any myths or that you've heard when it comes to SEO and advertising in particular that you kind of think, okay, right, no, that's like, because there's things like, for example, how people read online, or, stuff around conversion rate optimization in particular, the importance of certain colors and, all of that kind of like, red, for example, put it in red because red is, it's a fire color. It's kind of very impactful. It triggers somebody to action and to anger actually and stuff like that. I mean, there's so much, as you would say, bollocks out there.
Yeah, it's a tough one because like It's a tough one because there's just so many different opinions going around out there about what people need to do and what people think that they should be doing. I'll be honest with you, like most of the stuff that people talk about when it comes to like conversion rate optimization and stuff, this has all been thought up by marketers. It's not been thought up by psychologists. And when you actually dive into kind of the science behind it, I'm one of these nerds that actually does read research papers on stuff for fun, just because. And once you take a look at it, you realize that, you know, people don't really know what they're talking about at all. They just kind of see this idea, they read it in, say, a non-scientific journal or somewhere, and they just pick it up, and it seems like, you know, take it literally, if that makes sense. But I think something that, you know, as an industry we lack quite a lot is critical thinking. People don't stop and they don't think and they don't say, actually, is this correct? Is this something that I should be doing? People think, oh, because this person is well known, I'm going to trust what they say, or because this company is doing this, I'm going to do it. But actually, does it work? Do they test it? Has it been proven? No, it hasn't.
I think there's a tremendous amount of nuance as well, isn't there, with excuse me, with different industries and different kind of, where, like if you're talking about conversion rate optimization and we're, talking about, say, I don't know, CTA button colors, it's like, well, you can never really get an idea on, okay, what the truth, or what is the best color. It all depends on so many different things and different factors that it can vary from industry to industry. It can vary from website to website. It can vary from audience to audience. I think it's hard to get that. So I think it's, you do have to be very careful with the things that you kind of maybe think about testing. I mean, test everything, of course, as much as you can, but I think it's like you have to be careful not to obviously implement things that you've just seen somebody say or whatever. Like, yellow is the best button color, and then all of a sudden you change all your buttons to yellow, and it doesn't have an impact. It's like, I think you have to tread very carefully, don't you?
Exactly. And I think, I worked in international SEO for a decade, and that's something that I saw an awful lot as well, is people didn't think about, different cultures. So for example, if you take Germany as an example, people in Germany are not very trusting. You have to kind of, all of your call to actions need to have extra words in them, for example, like non-obligationary discovery call, or sign up for a free trial, or something like, non-obligationary free trial or something. You can't just go out with a sign up today, because people will be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Whereas a lot of the advice that we get out there, and it's a problem with psychology in general, is very Western focused. It's very kind of, a lot of the demographics that people research are very much kind of like well-to-do white people from the West. And people often forget that, in different cultures, you can't go out with it in the same way. You have to go and test what works in different countries, rather than just, translating the call to action or doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a difference between like localization and just straightforward, just, let's bang on and href lang on it and translate everything and that's it, which doesn't really work.
Started on international SEO is just hreflang tags. Like, I did a presentation on it at International Search Summit back in November, about how people from different countries, actually, you can measure what type of personality traits they have as a nation. And based on the different personality traits that different nations have, you can actually target your marketing copy, or you can target your SEO campaigns to their shared personality traits, and actually improve, conversion rates and improve everything by an awful lot, just by understanding, as a collective audience, are they more outgoing? Are they more, open-minded? That sort of thing.
Well, that's it. It goes back to that, doesn't it? Like, the kind of the thing that Emina and I love to kind of come back around to is obviously just understanding your audience, right? It's like, just understand the people that are, like, I know it's like understanding your tribe. Like, it's like, these are the people that we're selling products to. And I think these days people are way more conscious buyers, and they want to align their values with the with the companies that they purchase from. And I think we see that a lot more these days, is that, okay, like, they want their brands that they buy from to feel as if like, you know, they would be somebody that, you know, you could meet anybody from there and you could, you know, be friends with. You know, it's like that person to person connection, which is why, you know, they have to, and brands and businesses need to understand their audiences so well to kind of be able to connect to them on that level that is like a person to person level, that you can understand them and understand what their needs are from the product or from the service or whatever, right? So yeah, it kind of goes back to that, you know, like understanding your audience, and that's the key, really. I think.
Do you think, Sarah, that it's going to be more kind of connected to that? We talk a lot about the new buzzword, which is brand. Everybody's
Yep.
talking about brand. Now, I kind of think that, you know, brand has always been important. So it's not like just now important, but now it's in fashion. Do you think psychology is going to be more in fashion with the rise of brand?
I hope so, because sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall and just screaming and like, listen to me, psychology is important. And then people when you get rejections from everything, they're like, no, psychology is not important. No, people don't need to know this. And you're just like, people do need to know this.
Yeah, exactly. I suspect that it's gonna be more important, you know, like there's things that I'm really looking forward to. There's real opportunities in this kind of cesspool that we have found ourselves in with everything that has happened in search and engine optimization in the last like 18 months with all of
Cesspool's
the
a bit of a strong
changes.
word, isn't it, Emina?
You know, it is a little bit strong, but it is a little bit of a cesspool. I don't think it's like an intentional one. I mean, some of it is intentional, but you know, we have to adopt, you know, as SEOs, what we do. Our role needs to change,
Yeah,
and I think
we're in a state of change. I think that's the thing, because obviously
exactly, it's
with
a
new
flux
technology,
kind of type of
yeah.
thing. Yeah, exactly, and I
Um,
think stuff like psychology it's going to be more and more
which is why I
important.
think that's it. It's like, you know, things from the past, like, you know, in order to go to the future, and when you are in these situations of change, I think you look to things in the past, which is why, you know, when we went to the Spotlight conference in October and November time, and other conferences towards the end of the year, I found that there was a lot of talks that are talking about these kind of traditional marketing methods that are making a comeback, because there's like I was saying before, it's like a wealth of value there, you know, that people are using, but it's like using the past to understand, okay, well, how do we navigate the future? And I think that's why you kind of tend to get this trend of people looking back, which is actually quite good for digital marketing and good for SEO. Because like I said, it just gets in its own bubble too much, I think, and you forget about these things.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that. And I think there's so many SEOs out there. It's hard to know, you know, who are the good ones, who are the shit ones, you know, who should you go to? And I think now more than ever, people need to differentiate themselves, and they need more skills as a traditional marketer, or, you know, just something that makes them stand out, because, you know, knowing how to do technical optimization, knowing how to implement hreflang tags, knowing how to write some content with some header ones and stuff like that, you know, is basic. Not going to get you anywhere now.
Yeah, exactly. And coming back to the kind of the SEO side of things, where psychology, in my mind, fits really, really well. I mean, it fits everywhere well, but where I kind of look at it as something that can really help is around this idea of search intent. Yeah.
Yep.
I know you have quite a lot of opinions on search intent. I mean, personally, I've always had a problem with this kind of idea of search intent and kind of, you know, the what is it, four like breakdowns of like very basic search intent. I've always had an issue with that because it stops us from thinking thinking nuanced intent rather than just, because there's a big difference between somebody who's coming onto a website to with the intent to review, you know, the tools and see and compare, and somebody who's just going in to buy, and it's all like it slammed into one, which is just it's just not nuanced enough for me personally. What do you think?
Don't even get me started on this because I'm going to go off on another tangent about bullshit SEO metrics. But when you work for an SEO tool, you realize that people are really, 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 really like attached to certain metrics. And once you realize kind of how they work behind the scenes, you're just like, this metric means nothing. This is like the biggest bullshit metric that you can ever have. But yeah, companies base their KPIs around them. They base everything around them. And you just like focus on something important rather than this. But search intent is kind of one of them that, maybe I'm just old and grumpy, but it doesn't take much brain power to kind of sit there, understand, and be like, okay, if somebody is typing in this keyword, what do they want to do? What do they want to do, when they go to a website? And I think people have got too complacent and too used to like SEO tools doing everything for them, so they don't use their brains and they don't think. So I think, moving into the future, SEO tools are amazing, but they're no substitute for you using your brain, you understanding your target audience, and you knowing what you want to do with them. And I think as well, when it comes to like search intent, you can't put it down into 4 different categories, especially those 4 categories, because they don't really describe it very well.
Navigational. Never knew what the navigational one is. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it's like conversion, transactional and commercial, and it's like
very similar,
basically
isn't it?
the same. Like, are people looking for information because they want to research something? Are people looking for information because they're on a rampage and they want to, prove themselves right or something? There's a really, really big difference between all of these different actions.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was doing some research the other day for like tracking implementation. And, tracking implementation, you just type in, it's like, well, it's the context. It's like my context is I'm thinking like conversion tracking, right? Tracking data and all these things. But then Google's context is like anything. It's like, it doesn't even know. It's like, it's chucking up loads of different results. It's talking about kind of vehicle tracking. It's talking about like all types of different tracking. It's like, which one do you want? It's like, well, and it's that, it's understanding your audience is then being able to specify more to allow, and the SEO tools might come up, you might be specific, and the SEO is like, oh, I've got no data for that, so I'm just going to tell you there's no point targeting it. It's like, no, that's not the case. It's like, it's not always about that average search volume that they see in the SEO tool,
Oh gosh, yeah, or the automated audits or stuff like that. That was one of the banes of my life when I worked in international SEO, and it was just like, you have an international SEO score of 86%. I was like, but your website's not optimized and it's not even indexed.
Yeah. I mean, we are talking about psychology, and to play devil's advocate, and I do believe in this a bit, is when you're thinking about the psychology, and you mentioned it, Sarah, of these companies, the clients, as an agency, you have clients, they love a good score. I mean, there is a psychology of loving a good score as well.
Oh,
so
in psychology, scores are good. People like scores.
Yeah, they love scores.
What is the point in giving somebody a score if it's a bullshit score and the score?
No, of course, yeah. But it's the problem starts when you start. Yeah, exactly. The problem starts when those scores become KPIs. Yeah. So that is the problem.
Yep.
I love a good score. I will give a score, like we have our technical audits, and we give a score that is based off of a lot of things that we've done. It's like a custom metric that we use. But it has things like experience in it as well. It's kind of, but I would never say to a client, okay, right, your score is, it's out of 100. So your score is 28, and our KPI for this quarter is going to be to get you to 68.
That's the thing. I think scores can be great when you do custom audits and stuff like that and put in things, like, are people converting? Are people doing this? But when you just take it straight from an SEO tool and they're like, right, your technical score is like 80% this month, we're going to get it to 85. You're just like, or no. So yeah, no, I do love a good score, but it has to be a proper score.
To finish off, I would like to know, we've talked about a lot of stuff, and you obviously have a ton of experience and a degree in psychology.
Mhm.
Are there any frameworks or any kind of advice that you would give to SEOs to start somewhere with exploring how psychology can help them in their work?
Yeah, so it's unfortunately it's not so easily done just because there is not a great wealth of people researching search and SEO compared to people researching, say, conversion rate optimization or copywriting and stuff like that. So it is very, very much early days. And it's something that I am trying to fix a bit, hence some of the research that I did last year and stuff like that. For me, if you want to get started, the best place that you can probably start is, like I said, reading some of the studies that people have done in the past, reading some of the, advertising greats at the past, and make sure whatever you do, whenever you read up about psychology, you make sure that it's it's written by somebody who actually has a degree in psychology or experience in psychology, because there's so many self-published books out there by people who decide that they want to become a psychologist and decide that they want to become an author when actually, it's a load of crap. So do that. And also, if you want to dive in, the best place I can recommend is Google Scholar as well, because you'll be able to research the actual topics. You'll be able to go and see, if you're a bit of a data nerd like me, you'll be able to go and see, what the actual, significance of certain things are. And so on. And you'll often be surprised that a lot of things that you thought were best practices actually turn out to be unproven.
Oh, no, that's really good advice. And it's
thanks,
it's a
Sarah.
simple thing to do.
I think the last thing that we need to get you to do is submit something and banish something to our room 404, which we like to do every episode, is put something in room 404 never to see the light of day again. So please make your suggestion.
Oh God. Right, pseudo-psychology. Can we please banish that? Please do not learn psychology off LinkedIn, off some influencer who has no idea what they're talking about. Please just no.
We
Good one.
We can put that in there. Yeah, fantastic.
Good one. We can put kind of exploiting bias as well in there as well as one of the kind of my psychology one. But it's your room 404 today, so.
Oh, that can go in there as well. The number of times I get asked by people, how can you exploit people's biases? And I was like, don't do that. That's mean.
It's awful, isn't it? It is awful. Well, Sarah, this was a really interesting conversation about
where
a
can
topic
people
that's
find
really
you on social?
Yeah, so you can find me mainly on LinkedIn. That's where I've been really lazy and neglected it lately, but yeah, I will be back on LinkedIn and actually post stuff. Or my website is sarahpresh.com, which I probably should change the name on as well.
Yeah. It's time now.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and all of the other actions.
Please leave a comment, engage in the conversation, discussion. Please do connect with Sarah as well. And if you do take something from today, it's just to connect with Sarah really and ask some questions, and I'm sure she'll be there to help you out and point you in the right direction. So yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. Thanks, Emina. And,
well, it's always nice talking to Sean and Sarah. I had a great time.
Yeah, it's been a good SEOs Getting Coffee, and hopefully we'll see everyone next time.
Brilliant.
Bye.
See you there, everyone. Bye bye.